Welcome to the 12th Annual International Conference on Stigma. My name is Sarah Iqbal, and I am a member of Stigma Conference Organizing Committee. Now it's the time for our third raffle, which will be a $50 Visa gift card. The winner for today's raffle is Tiana Webb. Congratulations, and once again, the winner for today's raffle is Tiana Webb. I will also now announce the names from Monday and Tuesday's raffle in case you've missed it. Our winners from Monday and Tuesdays are Hannah Bablu and Brittany Dosco. Congratulations, and we will reach out to you.
I want to say welcome everyone to 1 p.m. and thank you, Saher. I asked if she could also put those names in the chat because I'm sure everybody who's a winner wants to know. And it's unlike when we were in person, we would just keep drawing until we found our winner that day. But today you can get notified. And so with that, I want to bring on Dr. Helen Holton. Well, first of all, you can read her official bio, but I'm going to give you my personal bio because I happen to know her. And this day, as I said before, I'm Lisa Fager-Bediako. If I haven't said that, I keep getting online and forgetting to mention who I am. And I've been involved with this conference for 12 years and I love it. But I cannot wait to see you people in person. But some good things have come out of COVID. And one of them is this virtual opportunity to involve more people and to also be able to do some things a little different. So I think it's awesome what we have this day that Dr. Rana allowed me to play with, leadership and development training, and to really focus on ourselves. All the people that are with us today in this session or segment all have some connection to HIV, advocacy, training, policy, clinical, but they also wear other hats, just like, everyone else does. And we all have these different roles in our lives. And Dr. Helen Holton does not have a shortage of hats, let me tell you, okay? So I put a little icebreaker about myself. You could see that online, and that's about one of my other hats that I wear. But Dr. Helen Holton, I mean, her hats, her bio can't even fit all of them. So I think she left some things out. But I met her just when she left city council after 20 plus years of being a Baltimore City councilwoman. And then, working for NOBCO, which is the National Organization of Black County Officials, which she still wears that hat. And she's also an ordained minister and she's a PhD and oh my goodness, so much more. But she also focuses, and a lot of that encompasses what she's going to do today. It's leadership. She obviously is a leader in many realms of her life. And what she has been able to do is now give us an opportunity to figure out some of those leadership assessments. She understands and is certified, of course, in this too. But she's also worked with so many different leaders. And so she can give us her opinion and we can talk about where we work, who we are independently, are we good leaders? I think this just gives us a really good opportunity to be our best selves. And, this pandemic has really tested us all. So it's always good to put ourselves in check. And I hope you all, really get that. And no longer, we're going to keep this show going and bring Dr. Helen Holton to the floor. And this is very interactive, so I'm really excited about this segment. All right, come on, Dr. Holton.
Woo! Hello, Stigma Conference. I would just love for you all to get on camera if you're not too shy to show up, because I love seeing your faces. It's the next best thing for us to be in person. If not, I get it. Maybe they're telling you keep your camera off to increase your bandwidth. But I just love to interact with people when I'm doing these things. We've been doing it for over a year. And when I can see your face, that's what coaches do. It's not just about seeing your name on the screen, but it's about seeing you. So encourage me while I'm here to inspire, motivate, inform, and help you take your leadership to the next level. Because that's what it's about. It's about the engagement, the interaction, and how we connect. So let me formally introduce myself. I am Dr. Helen Holton, serving as the Executive Director of the National Organization of Black County Officials. But I'm also one who works with leaders like yourselves to leverage your strengths, to manage your weaknesses, all in the effort to increase performance, productivity, and profits. Yes, I said profits to an audience probably of nonprofit leaders, but I'm sure some of you all know what it means too when you want to put your own hat on. And, I'm a serial entrepreneur. So every job I've ever had, I always had a side gig going on because I just love doing my own thing. And we're going to talk about, I want to open up with this reality. Our words have power. They convey meanings that speak to our purpose, our passions, pains, our pursuits, and our progress. Words have power, and what you do with them matters. It comes out in how you show up, how the world knows you. How are you showing up for your life? You are the chief architect of your life. Are you creating your masterpiece right now out of the best of who you are? Well, for today, I have 3 primary learning objectives for us. The first one being to gain a better understanding of what are leadership assessments. I know some of you jumped in here out of curiosity, but there really is something to it. Number 2, what's their purpose? Why do they matter? Well, if you're a leader, even if you don't know all of why it matters, you have some glimmer just by the experience you're living or have lived as a leader. And lastly, what's in it for you? You ever heard the term whiffum? Now, I may be dating myself, but I grew up in a whiffum mentality that unless you really understand what's in it for me, how are you going to show up as the best you to deliver performance, productivity, and profits for whatever organization you're involved with? Well, I'm glad you're curious about these things. Let's get started. So, I am one who I love leadership, and I have followed the gurus of leadership and leaders who don't necessarily focus on leadership. And here are some of my favorite quotes. Peter Drucker: the only definition of a leader is someone who has followers. Is there anyone following what you do? And Bill Gates took it into the future as we look ahead into the next century. Leaders will be those who empower others. So people say, what kind of leader are you, Dr. Helen? I am a servant leader. Everything that I do is really about helping others be the best that they can be, because when I'm doing that, I know I'm contributing to making the world a better place. Something to think about. Now, one of my all-time favorite leaders is John Maxwell, who defines leadership basically with one word: influence. What is influence? Who's following what you think, say, and do? Influence. If no one's following you, if no one's curious about what you're doing, then are you really a leader? Good question to ask yourself. And how could I talk about leaders without talking about someone who is like me, a Black woman? Oprah Winfrey said, passion is energy. Passion. One of those, when we speak those words, what you say and how you say it shows up for someone as your passion. Passion is energy. Feel the power that comes from focusing on what excites you. Can you tell this is exciting me? I'm excited if you are. If you're getting even the least bit excited about what I have to say, just put in the chat box, excited. Let me know you're excited, because I'm excited, even if you aren't. And then there is Padmasree Warrior, the founder of Fable, who said the ability to learn is the most important quality of a leader. Yeah. Mary Poole, an author, said leadership should be more participative than directive, more enabling than performing. Can I just tell you, if those words haven't rung true in these last 2 years, I don't know what has. If you can't be engaged with people and concerned about them more than yourself, you're not going to get that far. The excitement over yourself, there may be people that have that, but I'm certain they're not the people that are showing up as the best and the brightest in the world. So, as you might have guessed already, I love having a play on words. So whenever I'm doing a training of some sort, I go to the dictionary. Well, now, you can get every kind of dictionary that exists out there. And I like to go to a dictionary that breaks things down in layman's terms so that anybody can understand what they say. And sometimes I mix and match them. But assessment, it's a noun in the plural. It's the evaluation or estimation of the nature, quality, or ability of someone or something. For example, the assessment of leadership needs. How important a part do you think that played when you were being considered for your current position? Even as an entrepreneur, sometimes it helps to do an assessment or two. So, what are they? What are assessments? So, I am a collector of things. Artifacts, words, articles, sayings, quotes, books. I've stopped doing hardcover books. Kindle's become my favorite vehicle. I have every bookcase in my house is double stacked. I think I'm on that side of the mountain where I need to start getting rid of some things instead of collecting more. And online books is a great way to do it. Kindle, not that I'm plugging for Kindle. Leadership assessment is the process of using tests and analysis to determine an individual's management strengths and potential. Several different approaches may be used to determine an individual's strengths and weaknesses. Yes, we have both. There's no such thing as being good at everything you've endeavored to do. And your overall effectiveness as a leader. Leadership assessments will usually evaluate both the individual's inherent personality traits and their situational responses and abilities. Because who we are in calm times is not necessarily who we are under pressure. But if we don't have a good understanding of who we are beyond who we think we are, we might run into a few problems every now and then. So that's taken care of to some extent. What are assessments? Nothing fancy, it's just a measurement tool. And I'm sure sometime over the course of your life, has our poll launched, by the way? Can we do that, Lisa? Can we get our polls launched? Hello? Oh, there we go. No.
That's definitely a tech question.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
Okay,
They're coming in. They're coming in. Okay.
Oh, awesome.
Yay. Can I just tell you all, this technology, every day, it's a new wonder. Every day. If I go to some of those tech tools I used 2 years ago, I probably wouldn't recognize them today. They've changed so much. But anyway, we'll go on as you all are completing the assessments. Please, if you haven't done it yet, please do. I see we're not even at the 50% mark. So if you go to your Hoover app and pull up polls in this session, I'd really appreciate that because it helps in the research and study that I do in this area to see how actively engaged people are and where they are in terms of assessments. What my experience has taught me is that a lot of people don't take them because they don't trust them. They don't feel comfortable about them. They think their information is going to be revealed to someone other than them. And these are all valid questions, but this is where learning about different assessments, what they do, what you're being measured against, and how they help to improve your leadership is important. Just as important is who are you taking your assessment with? Are you getting a debrief? Are you having some accountability to see that you're really putting it in use. What's the definition of insanity? If you keep doing what you've always done, you'll keep getting what you've always gotten. So taking an assessment, getting the results and saying, check, done, doesn't help to develop your leadership. So what purposes do leadership assessments serve? Why they matter? Well, they bring awareness to your strengths based on how you naturally think, feel, and behave. For example, when I was a little girl growing up, I had this knack for numbers. Now, how many here remember when telephones were dial phones only? Just put remember in the chat, because I know some of you here remember those dial phones before we got to push button, which was a step up. And now, how many phone numbers do you actually remember off the top of your head? As a child, I remembered far more than I do today, because I just go to my handy dandy smartphone and hit the person's name. Oh, do I want mobile, work, or home? And boom, voila, we're connected. Sometimes I don't even get to see the number if I'm sending a chat. That's right, 3 numbers, now 9 numbers. What do we have? 10 numbers now. So how you think, feel, and behave. People would say to me, how do you remember that number? Someone would say, oh, call so-and-so. Oh yeah, I got the number. Da, 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 when we got the push button. I know my driver's license number by heart. I have a knack for numbers. Go figure. I graduated as an accounting major from undergrad, became a CPA. Knowing those numbers and being comfortable with them is a big deal these days. How many of you are comfortable looking at financial statements? And if you're in a leadership position in an organization, you have to do it at least once a year to look at the numbers, your budget, the organizations, or whatever. Numbers matter, but you don't have to be the one that withholds the expectation that the reading or understanding of those numbers rest with you. Through leadership assessments, you can come to understand, are you really that kind of person to be that deeply engaged? So assessments identify weaknesses. Now, here's a newsflash for you. The probability of you converting a weakness into a strength is a wasted use of your good time. Your weaknesses will never become your strengths. But when you know the best of who you are, how you naturally think, feel, and behave, you can build that into a real strength and use it to leverage and manage your weaknesses, and to find other people who have strengths that you don't, which means you got folks you can collaborate with, consult with, have in and come and break it down for you in simple English language. When I look at a set of financial statements, it tells me quite a bit about an organization without anyone opening their mouth to say a word, so long as those financials are accurate. Think of it as learning a new language. You don't necessarily have to be an expert in it, but having a little bit of knowledge helps you lead a little better, especially when you let go of the premise that, oh, I'm not good at that. I can't get that. That doesn't work for me. As a leader, that's not a valid option. They provide direction for your leadership development. If you're really strong in communication, maybe you want to focus on, maybe you want to be a spokesperson for the organization, or maybe you want to be the one that talks to high donors to make sure they're in good relationship with your organization. If fundraising is how you raise the money to operate your organization. Trust me, as an executive director of an organization, I know how important that is. And there are times I might call on someone else who's a better fit to have that conversation. That's not you stepping into a weakness. It's actually you leveraging your strengths, knowing what you're best at, and not trying to be a jack of all trades, a master of none. Do what you do best. Collaborate, delegate, coordinate to get those other functions done. Yeah. Assessments help direct your career path. and ensure that you're in alignment with your life goals. If you remember, I said earlier, our words convey our passions, our pains, our pursuits, and our progress. And you want to be able to measure that in a way that helps you feel fulfilled in life. Leadership assessments support the ongoing concern of your organization. Figuring out how you're going to have succession planning done. You know, every leader doesn't live forever to stay in place forever either. And so there's a time when you need to know when it's time for you to go, when it's time to train someone younger, to groom them along the way. Oh, yes, those high potential employees. Why not put them through a couple of assessments and get some accountability so that you can help develop their potential, so that when you're ready to step down and pass the baton, you've got some people who you really think can pick it up where you're leaving it. Think of it as a relay race. At some point, you've completed your leg of the race. It's time for you to put that arm behind you with that baton, and the person coming up behind you can grab it and keep running that race towards success of your organization. Any questions so far? I know we have time for them at the end, but I like to do a check-in in the middle just in case. So, assessments. Why do they matter? Because they impact your bottom line. How do they do that? How can you make sure that happens? You know, poor leadership costs your organization money in missed business opportunities, in executive turnover with replacement and recruitment fees. And let's look at the soft costs: employee morale, employee confidence, and trust in your leadership. What happens? What do you notice when you've been in an organization where all of a sudden a lot of that becomes a revolving door? Not so much at the bottom rungs, but at the top. Now, ever since I've been coming to this conference, Ms. Patricia Houston has always been on point and in place to make sure things happen and run smoothly. If I associate anyone with the Howard University International Stigma Conference, it's Patty Houston and Lisa Fager. Hey, Patty, hey! So these things matter. Find the right people for the right job. Now, just because Joan down the hall left and she used to be the scheduling clerk doesn't necessarily mean that the front desk receptionist is prepared to be the scheduling clerk or the CFO or the director of operations. Find the right people for the right role that you have to have filled in order for your organization to have success. Because remember, as a leader, the actions that you take impact the bottom line. When a new leader fails, everybody in the organization loses. From those things I mentioned earlier, missed opportunities, the things that just aren't happening that you want to have happen. All of that impacts your bottom line. When your bottom line is impacted, what's one of the things that usually happens? Layoffs, no increases, shifts in leave policy. Remember when it used to be sick leave, vacation leave, funeral leave? Then it got all rolled into paid time off. On some measure, I'm still trying to figure out, is that a better formula than the old way of doing things? Or sick leave banks? All of these things impact your bottom line. Decreases in financial and soft costs matter. This is an area where leadership assessments can help you and your organization. So let's talk about some of the leadership assessments. Do we have any poll results in, Lisa? Just a few. Let's see what they're looking like. Okay, so those of you who have responded, have taken a leadership assessment 1 to 2 times. That's pretty good. Oops, I didn't mean to close that out. Oh, Myers-Briggs, leading the pack. Okay. All right, let's go back here. Let's see. Wonderful. You're interested in learning more about leadership assessments? Then you're in the right place. And I'm here to tell you more about them. So let's talk about some of these leadership assessments. What are they? What are they purported to do? So I'm going to begin with the Gallup-Clifton Strengths Assessment. Now, I will tell you, I'm partial to Gallup because when I took the Gallup-Clifton Strengths Assessment, for the first time in my life, I took an assessment, and I'm a leadership assessment junkie. I take them all the time. The free ones, the paid ones. I'm just curious how they're going to measure up to those that I know are really identifying myself, that I can see with what they say. Gosh, do they have a mirror into me? For the first time in life, I read things about myself that I'd never spoken to another human being. And this is what it did for me. We all have those inner critics, beyond those public naysayers that are always looking to tear us down instead of build us up. Well, when I read the results of this assessment, I was like, OMG, people had me thinking that I wasn't the person that I thought I was. So leadership assessments help us put that inner critic and those naysayers at bay. You don't really understand me. If you got to know me better, you know that your perception of me just isn't that accurate. So I will tell you, Gallup-Clifton Strengths, formerly known as Strengths Finders, that some of you may recognize that name. They changed the name in 2018, but it came out in 2001. They refined it in 2007, and then they did a deeper refinement of it in 2018. And what they came up with, as has always been, there are 34 talent themes. Well, each of those talent themes represent, 100 or so personality types. It's a psychometric personality assessment. But those in the top 5 signature themes with 34 talent themes, do you realize that is 278,256 different combinations for the rankings of your top 5? More than 25 million people on the planet have taken the Gallup-Clifton Strengths Assessment since 2007. And would you believe that the probability of another human being having the same report for your top 5, same exact, is 1 in 33 million? Can you believe how unique the algorithms they have? And the more people that take it, the more they tighten up those algorithms to really drill down to who you are. Does it mean everything you read is going to match what they say? Absolutely not. But it does mean there's a high probability that they're going to nail you for the most part as to who you are. So what does that mean? That means that you're going to have a pretty good idea of who you are. And as you take other assessments, you'll find that they dovetail into those that really get you. And I see Myers-Briggs is getting a lot of action, and they're on that list, as is DISC. So DISC, dominance, influence, steadiness, conscientious, was introduced in 1928 by William Moulton. It was refined to an assessment in 1940 by Walter Vernon Clark. And then since 1972, approximately 50 million people have taken the DISC assessment. And DISC has 16 combinations, I think. But then you have, which is still pretty good at 50 million, but they've been around doing it for quite some time. But then so has Myers-Briggs. Now, Myers-Briggs has 16 personality types. DISC has 4. The combinations are different. Myers-Briggs has 16 personality types, and they really look at positing you between 4 different groups: extroversion versus introversion, sensing versus intuition, thinking versus feeling, judging versus perceiving, and those combinations. What happens with that is that you get to know yourself on a different level. And with Myers-Briggs, and I know this by experience, major shifts in your roles, how you show up in the world, positions you're holding, can influence how you show up and how you type out of the assessment. Because we're never the same person always. But what I like about some of the more psychometric assessments is those things tend to hold relatively true about you over time. Now, I wouldn't suggest you taking it every 6 months to say, oh, have I grown? Have I changed? Where is it now? But to really spend some time investing in it. Then there is the Hogan assessment. Okay, 2 came up. I can't figure this out. I'm learning to get fancy in my PowerPoints. The Hogan assessment identifies 11 personality syndromes in just one of their reports that's claimed to be related to a host of dysfunctional behaviors. Dysfunctional behaviors. When I think about that term, what comes to my mind is they're probably my weaknesses or what happens to my strengths when they're in overload mode. Yes, your strengths can get you into overload mode. Oh, are my slides not showing? Let me
No,
go.
you're not sharing.
Oh, let me go back. I'm so sorry. Am I sharing now?
Yes.
Yay. What was the last slide you saw?
None.
Oh my goodness. Well, we'll flip back real quick. We got a little bit of time. Let's see if I can make this flip backwards. No, hold on.
Well, we did get the information. You're good at presenting.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, these are the assessment tools. Maybe we'll include the slides that go on afterwards. So the intercultural development inventory, let me tell you about that. Everyone today is talking about culture, culture, culture. What is this culture thing? The intercultural development inventory, say that fast 3 times. It is one of the most widely used and effective tools for measuring and increasing your intercultural competence, also known as your cultural intelligence. What I love about this assessment is that when you think about what it does, we know diversity. Diversity is the universe of similarities and differences. Inclusion is what makes diversity work. The IDI, or the Intercultural Development Inventory, is like the how-to or the bridge to get you from diversity to inclusion, what it means to be who you are, comfortably who you are, and to adapt to a different culture without losing your own identity, but in a way to collaborate, work together, get things done. One of the things I like about this assessment is that it identifies your conscious and unconscious biases. Conscious and unconscious biases. It presents your results to you in a way that it gives you where you think you are along their continuum, moving from a monocultural attitude to a multicultural position, to where you actually show up in the world. Another one of those assessment tools that you just can't trick these assessments to get them to produce the results of where you'd like to be and show up in life. And then there's the 360. Who here has ever done a 360? Just put in the chat box, yay, nay. Yes, I've done one. No, I haven't. I don't even know what it is. Let me know where you are when it comes to 360. It's usually used in a corporate environment, but it can be used in a nonprofit environment as well, because it's a way of having your peers, your superiors, your subordinates, and yourself rate you against a series of questions about how they interact with you, how well you delegate, how well you take instruction, and then how you perceive yourself to be in those areas. Yes, you had to do one in grad school. Yes, it's one of those things that helps you really see yourself, but it's a wonderful leadership development tool as well. So, one of the most important elements of taking leadership assessments, and that drives you to that place is answering that question of, well, if I take this assessment, what's in it for me? How often have you had someone say, well, we want you to take this assessment? And FYI, oftentimes as you're moving higher up the ladder of leadership in your organization, they may want you to take an assessment tool so that they can really gauge your potential to move up in the ranks. Now, as I said before, our words have power. What we speak, what we think has power. If we speak it, it resonates at a higher frequency. And when we write it down, man, it begins to really become something that you believe you can manifest in your life. How many of you journal? Let's see. Yeah, journaling's a great way. If you journal about your life and your progress and what you want, how many of you have a personal mission statement? So put it in the chat if you do any of these: a journal, personal mission statement, an annual assessment of your progress. Or if you've done any of them, something that is self-reflective about you and your life, that really is answering that question. Well, if I do that, what's really in it for me? Oh, here we go. So let's talk about what are qualities of a successful leader. I want to take a moment, put in the chat some of the qualities that you think a successful leader has. And I'm still here with you, but I want to see how engaged you are with what we're doing here. Leaders who you've worked for, what was it about them that made you comfortable in working with them or even wanting to work with them? Good listeners, yes. They communicate, yes. Active listeners, very important skill. Anyone else? Did they encourage you? Clearly define expectations. I love it, Calvin. Yes. Anyone else? Caring. That's important. Very important. Thank you, Nikki. Grow you as an employee, investing in you. Yes. Experience sharing. Modeling is a wonderful way to groom future leaders. Non-judgmental. Yes. And it doesn't mean that there may be occasions when they're judgmental, but if you recognize them as being non-judgmental, that is a powerful leadership tool. Passionate, listen well, empathetic, yes, work well with others, willing, oh my goodness, Alicia, say that again, willing to admit mistakes. It really takes a leader that understands I'm not good at all things and I do make mistakes. Apologizing, admitting, team, I failed you, empowers your team to support you that much more. Lead by example. Yes. Never felt above any position. I love that. Every person I've ever hired, I sit down on day one during their orientation. I say, look, tell me if, I'm giving you too much work, because I won't know unless you tell me. I am always, there's not a job that I hire someone for that I'm not willing to do. Now, just because I'm not willing to do it doesn't mean I'm good at it one iota, but it means I'm right here with you. And if we have to roll up our sleeves together and jump in to get it done, I'm willing to do that with you. Yes, a personal mission statement. I'm in the process of working on mine now. It's this time of the year. This is a great time. We're winding down the year. Most people tend to have a little more free time around the holidays. It's a great time to think about, what is my personal mission statement? What am I valuing taking into the new year? What am I leaving behind because it doesn't serve me well anymore? Yes. So here are some qualities of successful leaders. Knowing themselves through the best of who they are. How do you think they get to the best of who they are? Through leadership assessments and different ones. And, they're always evolving them. But as I mentioned earlier, it's important to think about, is this assessment validated and researched? What's it backed by? Because people are coming out with assessments all the time, but unless there's a meta-analysis or some sort of research that validates the responses, and there are assessments I've taken that I'm clear that I've seen them evolve, that when I first got introduced to them, they really did not acknowledge what it means to be of the non-dominant culture, which is really important to me because as a Black woman, I identify with the non-dominant culture living in America. And I've taken assessments that didn't necessarily touch on that point, but I've seen them progress and change over the years, where there's a recognition of, yes, you recognize the sensitivities of how life shows up for the other. And just a sidebar, doing the work of HIV, one of the biggest things to think about for me is the intersections I live at are around race, gender, political privilege, and power. And the impact of these on the lives we lead matter. One of the things that leadership assessments helps you do, well, I help people do once they know who they are and what they're up against, is to build resilience. That is the secret sauce to my success, building resilience. And that is what I work with leaders to help them do that as much as they're developing their leadership skills. Investing in their own leadership development. I try to do something at least 2 to 3 times a year that's going to help me push and stretch myself. We don't grow by standing still and always relying on what we relied on. You've got to be willing to be a little daring, be a little curious about, how do I grow my leadership? How do I be more than what I think I am? One of the things that Gallup has said, that when you know the best of who you are, and they do the research all the time, people who know themselves through their most dominant talent themes and invest in them report being 3 times happier in life than other people. That's a 300% increase. Just imagine if you could be 300% happier in your life than what you are now. And with the same tools through coaching and training and self-study, they report being 6 times more actively engaged in the work they do. Now, right now, we're experiencing the great resignation. More people are walking away from their jobs or seeking new positions than ever before, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, because they have been tracking the data for more than 20 years and never have they seen it as high as it is right now. And everyone acknowledges this pandemic we're living in has a lot to do with it, because people have had the time, not necessarily to stop, but to pause and think about, what do I really want from my life? I want you to write that question down. What do I really want for my life? And spend some time thinking about that for yourself. Because if what you're doing isn't in alignment with what you really want for your life, maybe it's time to do something different. Successful leaders intentionally develop others. Have you had a boss or supervisor that every year wanted you to do some sort of professional development outside of the organization? Just type yes in the chat box if you've ever had a boss or leader invest in your development as a leader. Just type yes in the chat. If you haven't, type no. Maybe when you leave here, you want to say, hey, you know what? I've identified this course that I think will help me be better in my job. Sometimes you have to manage up. If your manager doesn't think you need it, maybe you have to manage up and find a way to make the request for it. Forward thinking, innovative, action oriented. These are the things that move organizations forward, that empower others to want to do and be more and participate as part of a team, looking out into the future. We can't stay here today, and yesterday is behind us. It's a great reference for maybe what we don't want to do, but it's just as much of what we do want to do and how we can move forward with our lives, not just for our organizations, but for ourselves, because it begins with us. If you are not actively engaged in the work that you do, you're not helping your organization to grow and prosper. You're not helping the sustainability of your organization. If you're not actively engaged in what you're doing, have a conversation with someone. See what it is you can do to do more. And here's a sidebar note. Money is not a long-term motivator. Oh, I'm going to give you a $2,500 bonus. Great, thank you. I appreciate that. Maybe you take that bonus and invest in your own leadership development. Or say, well, this is great. I love that you do that. Maybe you bring an external trainer in here to help us be better, to function as a team more cohesively. Oftentimes, someone outside of your organization can capture the attention of the people within your organization simply because they bring a different perspective than what you're accustomed to within your own organization. Civic-minded, focused on integrity and ethics. Excuse me, integrity and ethics. Today, that means a whole lot. I mean, right there, that's the goal. If you are in an organization where you know integrity and ethics are high, and maybe not the entire organization, but the person you report to, how does that make you feel? Does it make you feel valued, safe, secure? Does it give you high trust? Or if you don't think that's a part of your leadership, are you on the brink of the great resignation? And please don't put that in the chat. But things to think about as you move forward. And effective communicators. And several of you said in the chat that open communication, modeling, sharing things with you so you don't feel like you're in the dark. Has anyone here ever been on a job somewhere where you left work one day and you came to work the next day and the doors were padlocked and no one had a clue that it was happening? What do you think that does when you think about integrity and ethics? What do you think that does when you are the one on the outside and didn't know it was happening? Effective communicators communicate not just the good news, but the news that's hard to swallow too. Effective leaders, successful leaders, these are the types of things that they do. So I'm going to stop here to see, use our last 10 minutes. Are there any burning questions that someone has? Please put them in the chat. Curiosity, maybe something you thought was going to be said that wasn't said. I'm looking at the poll questions. Oh, we had some write-ins, but I don't know how to get to them. If someone has taken an assessment that was not on the poll, I'd love to know what it is. Would you please put that in the chat? I'm on my smartphone in the Hoover app. You know, this technology is just phenomenal. I get awed by it every day. Well, if there are no further questions or anything I can answer for you, thank you for joining me today at the Howard University International Stigma Conference to learn more about leadership assessments. For more information, you can reach me at Helen at drhelenholton.com. You can find me on LinkedIn as Dr. Helen Holton. And it has, do you think religion and cultural norms stop us from growing? Well, I will tell you, they can if you let them. And this is where asking questions beyond what you think is happening within those religious and cultural norms. This is where being curious and inquisitive, not in a judgmental way, not in an accusatory way, but approach it from curiosity. What happens if I think differently? I'm an ordained minister. And I will tell you, there are decisions that my church holds true that don't hold true to me. And sometimes in a larger organization, what's the saying? You have to pick and choose your battles. How important is that to me? And how does it impede my passion, purpose, pursuit? That pain, does it outweigh what I'm really after? Am I able to chart my progress in spite of it? Are there leadership assessments for people living with mental health conditions? I believe there are, Jasmine, and if you would follow up with me later, I'd be more than happy to identify some for you that are in that vein. Thank you, Daniel. Yes. Just because someone else says it doesn't make it true for me. And I will tell you this. Another thing to be mindful of as you go forward. We all live life following a script that belongs to someone. The question is this: whose script are you following? Or are you writing your own? As I said, you are the chief architect of your life. Taking an assessment doesn't mean you don't know who you are, but it may shed some insight into who you are at your best. Are you creating the masterpiece of your life right now? And if there's any doubt, follow up. See what's possible. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. And so, as I said, my information is on the screen. You can also find me on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook, but I don't go there too often. It's really way over it's like the overload for me. But please find me on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram as Dr. Helen Speaks. Let's see, I'm really out there everywhere, but there's only a couple that I keep up with. But I'd love to hear from you. And if you learned something valuable from this session today, please put in the chat one thing that you learned that you didn't know when you came in here. And that helps me to make this presentation even more successful for the next group of people that want to know more about leadership assessments. It has been an honor and a privilege to be with you this afternoon. I thank you so very much. I am Dr. Helen Holton. I work with leaders to leverage their strengths and manage weaknesses to increase performance, productivity, and profits. Thank you.
I'll just jump in here real quick and say thank you, Dr. Helen Holton, for this awesome presentation. I learned a lot about leadership assessments. Now I want to take some. Only took the Myers-Briggs. I was the Myers-Briggs person.
Oh, call me up, call me up.
Yes, I want to take a couple of those actually.
Yes.
But I want everybody to stay tuned for 3. I know 3 p.m. we have our next session. So, you know, I say take a break, and I know that we'll have some other things come on the screen. I don't know if Patty wants to jump in and has anything to add.
Yeah, so we'll have a little bit longer break than usual. I was just communicating with our production team, so there won't be a whole lot going on this hour. We'll put some slides up, but if you could take the time, if you have it, to check out our scientific posters, which are up, which were not up at the beginning of the week, so you might have missed them, as well as we have exhibitor booths that have videos in them, giveaways, all that type of stuff. So enjoy and definitely come back at 3.
Yes, and I know I've started playing on the Hoover app, so you know you can definitely connect with me there too. So I'm learning so much more. All right, we'll see y'all later. Bye, Dr. Helen. Bye, Patty. Bye, everybody. See you soon.